10:39 at night. A dull roar comes down from the mountain. The power cuts out, and in barely 4 minutes, an entire town of almost 2,000 people ceases to exist beneath a wall of water tens of meters high. The dam did not break. It still stands today. So what killed those 2,000 people if the wall held? And here's the most disturbing part. It wasn't a sudden earthquake or a freak of nature. Someone had warned of it. It had been written in the newspapers years before. And still, that night, the valley slept. We go to northern Italy, to the Alps, near the border between Veneto and Friuli. Vajont sits in the southeastern part of the Dolomite region of the Italian Alps, about 100 kilometers north of Venice. It was built as part of post-war development to bring hydroelectric power to the cities of the north. In the 1950s, an electric company called Sada raised something colossal there. Standing 262 meters tall with a crest 190 meters long, it was one of the highest dams in the world. A marvel of engineering, the pride of the nation. The problem wasn't the wall. The problem was the mountain facing it, Monte Toc. And here's where it gets strange, because the danger didn't arrive out of nowhere. It had been warning for years. From the very start, the signs were there. From the beginning of construction on the dam, geologists had judged that the mountain slopes were not fit to support a dam like this because there were already signs of earlier landslides. The ground was clay, unstable, prone to sliding, and some said it out loud. A few geologists warned of a deep-seated landslide, like the Austrian engineer Leopold Müller in 1960, and later the Italian geologist Edoardo Semenza. But there was another voice, and this one didn't come from a laboratory, it came from a journalist. She was the first reporter to expose, in the pages of the newspaper L'Unità, the dangerous situation building in the valley above Longarone. Her articles landed her in court, charged with spreading false and slanted news. Her name was Tina Merlin. They dragged her before a judge for daring to write what many were thinking. And what happened to her? She was acquitted, but her warnings were ignored. Acquitted, she was right, and still no one stopped the machine. Hold on to that detail, because it will hurt more by the end. Meanwhile, the mountain was already moving. That's not a metaphor, it was truly moving, centimeter by centimeter, and they were measuring it. In September, the water level reached 710 meters, and Monte Toc began to move again at 2 centimeters per day. The water level was gradually lowered to 700 meters. In other words, they knew the mountain was sliding, and it was speeding up. By early September, the lake was 245 meters deep, and the movements had accelerated to 3.5 centimeters per day. Think about it. The entire slope was creeping toward the water a little faster each day. The engineers could see it in their instruments, and the big question kept hanging in the air. If they knew all this, why did no one drain the reservoir in time? Why wasn't the valley evacuated? Because they believed they had the problem under control, and that was the fatal mistake. They ran tests with scale models at the University of Padua, but the models underestimated the worst possible scenario. Other geologists proposed shallow slip plains capable of causing only small collapses. Small slides, like the one in 1960, were in fact always expected. In 1961, they began building a bypass tunnel in case the reservoir was partly blocked by a collapse. See it? They expected a collapse. But a small one, a little pile of rock that would ripple the lake. They prepared for a minor problem. What was coming was not minor. What was coming didn't fit in any model. The night of October 9, 1963 arrives, a Wednesday. In the bars of Longarone, many people are watching a European Cup football match on television. Whole families going to bed. A quiet valley under the autumn rain. An hour and a half before the disaster, traffic was restricted on the roads below the dam, while phone messages said, maybe a little water over the dam tonight, but nothing to be alarmed about. Nothing to be alarmed about. Those were, more or less, the last assurances the valley received. And then, the entire mountain gave way. At 22:39 local time, the whole slope of Monte Toc collapsed. In 30 to 40 seconds, an estimated 240 to 270 million cubic meters of rock plunged into the reservoir, filling the 400-meter deep gorge behind the dam. Stop on that number, 260 million cubic meters, half a mountain, falling into the water all at once. In 45 seconds, everything changed. What had been a towering slope became a heap of rubble. What had been a deep reservoir of calm water became a lethal flood. What had been a valley of small Italian villages was scoured flat into a barren plain. And here, at last, we reached the answer to our question. The dam held, but that didn't matter because the water didn't break it. It leapt over the top. The rock displaced the water with unimaginable violence. The wave generated by the impact of the slide rose 140 meters up the opposite bank, reaching some buildings in the village of Erto. At the moment of impact, the reservoir held 115 million cubic meters of water. The slide pushed part of it out of the lake, producing a wave with a maximum height of 230 to 240 meters. A wave taller than a 70-story building. When it struck the dam, the slide created 3 gigantic waves. The first hit the village of Casso, the second destroyed parts of Erto. The third wave, with an estimated volume of 50 million cubic meters of water, surged beyond the Vajont Dam toward Longarone. 50 million cubic meters of water pouring down the other side of the wall into the sleeping valley of the Piave River. A wave 100 to 150 meters high hurled itself down the Vajont Gorge toward the larger, more populated Piave Valley. There the wave destroyed the villages of Longarone, Pirago, Villanova, Rivalta and Faye, and in less than 15 minutes more than 2,000 people died. In Longarone, almost directly below the dam, the destruction was near total. The town was almost completely wiped out, around 80% of its inhabitants drowned. And the chilling detail, the structure that caused all their deaths stood intact. The flood wave completely destroyed the town, causing one of the highest death rates ever recorded from a flood caused by a dam failure. Astonishingly, the Vajont Dam itself suffered little damage, even though it was subjected to a force far greater than its design pressures. The wall won. The people lost. That is the answer to our central question, and it is a terrible answer. The engineering of the wall did not fail. Everything else did. And what happened afterward? Did anyone answer for this? In the following years, there were trials. Engineers, company officials, and ministry bureaucrats were charged with negligence and manslaughter. Most were acquitted. 2 were convicted and served short sentences. Short sentences for 2,000 dead in 4 minutes. Years later, after countless debates and proceedings, the causes of the tragedy were attributed to the designers and executives of Sede, who concealed the unsuitability of the reservoir's slopes at hydrogeological risk. That is the word that sums it up: concealed. It was not an accident no one could foresee. It was, as Tina Merlin wrote, a foretold catastrophe. The public debate that followed was deeply divided. Sade and the Italian government maintained that the catastrophe was an act of God, while others argued that the early warnings from geologists placed the blame on avoidable human error. An act of God, over a mountain that had been moving for years in plain sight of everyone. Today, the Vajont Dam is still there. It remains in place, though without water behind it. A perfect wall, victorious, standing over an empty valley. And that is perhaps the final chill. Not that nature was stronger than man, but that man saw it coming, measured it, wrote it in the newspapers, took it to court. And still that October night, he let the valley go to sleep.